People's Radio United.
I mean, recently I was in Niagara Falls. I haven't been there for decades. And when I was there last time, it was still a tourist trap because you expect that. But it was more the usual tourist, anybody can do it things. Now in Niagara Falls, Ontario, there are 3 casinos. There is a massive shopping mall 300 yards from Horseshoe Falls. It has become so Disney-fied that it's disgusting. I was talking to a couple people from Germany, and they said, you know, this all this natural beauty, you people put 2 casinos right beside it? And I said, actually, it's 3 casinos. And their jaw just dropped open further. You know, I mean, the falls themselves are still impressive. There's still a fair amount of parkland around them, etc. They can accommodate the crowds, but it's like any other tourist mecca. As soon as you look away from Niagara River, you look behind you, and it looks like you're in Vegas or Honolulu or Acapulco or Monte Carlo. They all look the same, you know? It's this fucking monetization. It's gross.
Yeah, here's my advice to anybody looking at a place to go on vacation, tourists looking for a awesome tourist spot. Whatever you do, stay the hell out of LA, because first of all, we don't want you here, and second of all, if you come here, you're probably going to die. We have earthquakes, fires, shootings. It's insane. Just don't come here. Don't have Olympics here. Don't have sports teams come here. Just stay the fuck away from here. Thank you.
It's horrible. It's horrible. Okay, sorry.
Thank you. It's crowded enough here. We don't need more people here. Just stay the hell out away. Thank you.
I had a fantastic time. I mean, within, 2 hours, we had 25 cops just because we were at a park. Fuck's sake.
I was just trying to tell people don't come because I don't need more traffic and stuff. But yeah, it was awesome when Gear comes. You should always come, Gear.
I will always come down and see you. Don't worry.
You know, Glenn, what you said about how you have these parks and then you turn around and there's these casinos and such. You know, I'm starting to get into rock climbing, and something I'm looking really forward to is going to road tripping to certain national parks and camping out and doing rock climbing. And from what I've seen of this one move with Trump doing with the taking of lands, I think probably by the time I'm ready to make my first trip, there's not going to be any parks left for me to climb rocks in. Unless I breathe toxic fumes.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I imagine you'll still be able to climb, but you'll come down from the 38th floor of the Hilton and take a shuttle to the rock face. That's what's going to change.
Yeah, fuck that. And you know, Trump's been doing a lot of things that make me mad. This really upsets me, and I mean, maybe it sounds trivial because, like, Trump's done some pretty horrible shit, but, you know, there's not much nature, unspoiled nature left in this country that we can go to and just, you know, practice some self-care and, you know, reflect and, you know, get in our right minds. And now that's all being taken away, the little bit that we have in this country. I'm just like, fuck you, dude.
Not only that, dude, but those are huge Native American sites. There's a lot of artifacts and sacred sites in Bears Ears especially. And, you know, he really hates us. He's jealous that we can get casinos and he can't manage to figure out how to run a casino, but we can. So that is like underlying, I'm serious, that's his underlying bitch with us. I'm convinced of it, where people of color have learned how to run casinos effectively. So he's like on this tear to destroy everything. He's trying to privatize reservations. He's trying to privatize national lands that have artifacts and sacred sites. There's been a lawsuit filed by like 4 or 5 tribes, especially over the Bears Ears National Monument because of the sacred site. So, I mean, don't negate the fact that there's a lot of resistance to this that you may not be hearing about.
Right.
Well, that's
right. It's bullshit. Sorry, go ahead, Glenn.
No, that's awesome because, as you know, Gear, Stephen Harper tried this in Canada starting a decade ago to try to open up and privatize First Nations land. And it was our court system that protected us from Harper getting anywhere on doing that. I'm not so sure that what's going on with the U.S. judiciary and all the appointments and all the red states in charge of their own Supreme Courts, I don't know if Native Americans are going to get the same protection from the courts that they deserve to get that everybody got in Canada.
No, they won't.
And they never have.
The only thing that we have, I think the only thing we have going for us is legal help. You know, like we have legal sway because there's a lot of tribes that have that kind of like lawyer power. So there is that, you know what I mean? No, the laws do not protect us. They're actually written to destroy us and to make us extinct. So they've been working on that since, they showed up over here.
Well, they're still, you're right. You're right about that. You know, when they build like power plants or anything that's going to pollute the environment, where do they put it? On or next to reservations? You know, what is it? Like, is it 95% of the Indian reservations don't even have clean drinking water?
Yeah.
You know,
I think it's lower than that, but it's ridiculously high. Is the point that you made? Yeah.
Well, yeah. No percentage point is acceptable.
Yes, exactly.
Especially when you think about some of the Southwest tribes that have been, they've been subjected to uranium mining and those kinds of things. And they've got themselves in this horrible situation where these things create jobs, and the reservations are so poverty-stricken that they need the job, but it then, it destroys their drinking water and their land, and it's really screwed up the way that these businesses prey on these poverty-stricken communities.
No, it's economic slavery.
Well, it's so blatant. Amazing in the worst way. Well, blatant, yes. In the worst way, it's amazing how connected white supremacy is, especially how calculated it can be. And Gear just touched on how some Native people, like, well, I don't have another option for a job, so I just work at the casino or work on the oil fields or whatever. And in the Congo, we are mining for gold and other things in the soil that are valuable to human beings. And that's not a big thing that we did back in the day before white people came over. And yet, you continue to decimate our land and have control over our land, take our money, take our resources. What other opportunity do I have to make a living for myself? Okay, I'll work in the mines. I'll ruin our own land. Of course, and I'm not throwing blame on us like that. I'm just saying, hey, well, I don't have another option. So I mean, I don't know what to do. I mean, I'm picking me over the big picture, because that's I think a big point of especially Black and Indigenous, the plight that we face in different continents on this planet is survival, just day-to-day survival. And whether you're hugely aware of the white supremacy that's around us or not, just surviving day to day. So it is hard to blame a black person for working in a gold mine or a diamond mine. It is hard to blame a native person for working on an oil field or helping fracking take place. We're trying to live.
Of course. And the other thing that I think is worth mentioning, especially for the Southwest United States, the explosion of type 2 diabetes in Native American populations, because they're basically being forced to eat cracker fast food, and it just simply doesn't jive with what they've been eating for thousands of years. And that's another...
Let me just say to you guys, fry bread is not a traditional food. Okay? It's just not. That is something that was born out of poverty and necessity. But it's not a traditional food, and I see... Actually, I was just watching a program before I came on FNX, which is the First Nations Network. It's fantastic, by the way. You can find them on the interwebs on YouTube. And they were talking about this. There's a huge push to go back to indigenous foods, and a lot of Native youth are really pushing this, and they're starting to eat the way that our elders ate. They start to say, like, it's really funny when you think about this in the global sense of the human being. Like, they say, I'm sober, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, but hold on, let me run through McDonald's real quick and get a burger. Like, that is antithetical to how we should be living. So a lot of us are going back to our roots when it comes to food and really regaining those indigenous, not only practices, but then the food itself, like growing ancient seeds and shit like that. It's fantastic. It's really fascinating.
On the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, person makes an average of $4,000 a year. The diabetes rate is 8 times the national average. Over 95% of folks on the Pine Ridge Reservation live in poverty. And if you know your history, that's where the incident at Oglala happened, and why Leonard Peltier is still in prison to this day, because this government wanted more native land and wanted to dig up the soil, and after taking it from indigenous people, per usual, they weren't having it. Leonard went to prison, and it's now 2017, and you have the Bears Ears situation. So this, I continue to press that this ain't new.
Yep.
This is hardly new. And with whether it's the police, the stealing of land, and the lack of viable choices to improve one's life in the hoods and the reservations, both of which were created by the federal government for us to live in. There are pawn shops all over the place, gun shops,
liquor stores,
McDonald's, fast food joints all over the place, and we have to create healthy stores. Whether you're talking about selling greens, fruit, good meals. We have to make that and take that out of our own pocket. The powers that be are not putting a Sprouts up in up in Jackson, Mississippi, or up in Compton, California. We have to do that ourselves. And it's that much harder when you're already out of the womb. You have intergenerational trauma. You're told that you're not as good as everybody else. You're told that you're ugly, all this stuff. And then, oh yeah, you're going to get stopped by the cops. You get hurt by the cops, hate crime. You're going to get paid less. All this stuff you're dealing with day to day. And then on top of that, if you want to make things better for yourself, if you live in these communities, you have to put in even more steps versus just take the easy route, go to McDonald's for dinner, come home, go to sleep. And I won't myself blame, but it's very hard to blame any of us for taking that route, especially since you don't see white America going, you know what, we're going to help. We're done with this nonsense. It's time you be equal like the rest of us.
Economic assimilation.
Indeed.
Well, nobody can ever say that Whitey didn't think things through.
Oh, they're a smart bunch.